The stars shimmered like distant jewels as the galaxy's peace hung in delicate balance. For years, the Galactic Coalition had held sway over the various species, ensuring that no single race dominated. But all of that was about to change. Without warning, a ship appeared on the outskirts of the Coalition's most guarded sector. It was unlike any ship the galaxy had ever seen. Massive, dark, and terrifying. Its sleek, sharp edges were designed for war, not trade or diplomacy. The hull bore an insignia, one that none of the leaders in the Coalition recognized. It was human. The ship moved with deadly precision through the stars, not bothering to hide its presence. No one knew how it had arrived or where it had come from, but the messages started flooding in. The galaxy's most advanced sensors picked up its energy signature, a new kind of power source, one far beyond what any known species had mastered. Whispers of fear spread quickly from planet to planet. Who were these humans, and what did they want? The leaders of the Galactic Coalition immediately called an emergency session. As they gathered in their grand chambers, the atmosphere was tense. Ships of every race were mobilized, ready to confront this new threat. But no one knew if the human warship was here to negotiate or to attack. The Council's most respected diplomats suggested making contact first, hoping that this would be nothing more than a misunderstanding. But there was one problem. They didn't know where the humans came from, or if they even still lived the way the galaxy thought they did. Captain Eric, the leader of the warship, had yet to make contact, but every sensor on every ship within range could feel the weight of his decision. What did he want? Did he come to conquer, or was there another reason for this arrival? Fear crept through the minds of the council members. The Thunderstrike, as the ship was now called, moved in silence. There were no signs of life visible on its surface. Nothing but cold, calculated silence. The communication officer of the Coalition's largest fleet, Commander Riloth, stared at his screen, his fingers hovering over the console. He wasn't sure if they were supposed to send a greeting or prepare for battle. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air. The ship had fired no weapons, yet its presence alone sent ripples of fear throughout the galaxy. It was as if the very stars themselves were holding their breath, unsure of what was coming next. The Thunderstrike was only one ship, but it felt like it could bring the entire galaxy to its knees. A signal finally came, but it wasn't what anyone expected. The message was simple, yet chilling. A single line echoed through the communications network. "We come in peace, but we will defend ourselves at any cost." The words weren't threatening, yet they carried an undeniable weight. It wasn't a plea for help or a sign of weakness. It was a declaration. This human warship was ready for anything. The Council's debate raged on. Some were eager to meet the humans and find out more about their intentions, while others urged caution. A few suggested that the galaxy prepare for the worst. Whatever was happening, no one could deny the power this single warship displayed. The galaxy had never seen such technology, not even from its most powerful races. It was clear that humans were no longer the species they once were, a race of explorers and builders, now turned into warriors. The balance of power had shifted. Back on the Thunderstrike, Captain Eric stood at the helm, staring out into the black void of space. His crew waited silently, every eye on the captain as he prepared for whatever might come next. He wasn't worried. He had fought in wars before, seen countless battles, and yet this was different. Humanity had always been a species of survivors. But now, they were something more. He had been chosen to lead this mission, to show the galaxy what humanity was capable of. Peace was no longer an option. With one final glance at the stars, Captain Eric turned to his crew. "Prepare yourselves. If the galaxy wants war, they'll have it. But if they want peace, they'll have to earn it." The crew nodded silently, each one knowing that the Thunderstrike was not just a warship. It was a statement. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. "You said." The galaxy's leaders scrambled to address the growing threat. Panic swept through the coalition as rumors spread faster than any news of peace. Everyone knew that a single human warship had appeared, but no one understood how or why. The truth was, the Thunderstrike had been silently observing for days. Its presence was a warning, one that no one fully understood. The galaxy had grown complacent, believing they could handle anything, that their alliances and superior numbers were enough to keep peace. But this ship, with its eerie silence and unmatched power, was a challenge to everything they knew. The coalition's response was swift. An emergency summit called to decide the fate of this lone warship. On one side, there were those who urged immediate action. They were convinced that humanity could not be trusted, not after all they had done in their history. These leaders called for military strikes to eliminate the threat before it spread. On the other side, there were those who proposed diplomacy. Maybe the humans were not the same as they once were. Maybe they had come for peace. There was no way to know for sure without speaking to them first. Across the stars, a wave of anxiety spread among the different species. The Krillians, the Zora, the Varkish, all of them took immediate action. Ships were scrambled, defense systems readied, and the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the human ship to make its next move. In the heart of the galaxy, the Galactic Council convened, anxious and unsure. What did the humans want? What did this warship represent? Then, a message came through. This time, it wasn't a simple broadcast. The message was direct, and it shook every species to its core. It wasn't a greeting, nor was it a plea for peace. It was an ultimatum. We are humanity. We have come to make our presence known. You can accept us, or you can fight us. But know this, if you attack, we will retaliate with force. The voice was calm, almost detached, but it carried a weight that none could ignore. Captain Eric had spoken, and the galaxy now knew that this wasn't a warning. It was a declaration. The humans were not here to negotiate. They were here to stake their claim in the stars, and they would fight for it if necessary. The council was stunned into silence. Many had believed that the Thunderstrike had simply appeared by chance, that it was a fluke, an anomaly. But now, they understood. The humans were organized, calculated, and prepared. They had come to take their place in the galaxy, and they weren't asking for permission. This wasn't a peaceful visit. It was an invasion, albeit one wrapped in the guise of diplomacy. The first to react was General Valora of the Zora species. As seasoned military leader, she had seen countless threats. But none like this. We cannot allow this to stand, she said, slamming her fist on the table. This human ship must be destroyed before more follow. If we wait, it will be too late. On the opposite end, the peaceful counselor, Xander of the Krillians, spoke up. We cannot act out of fear, he argued. What if they are not here to fight? What if they are offering a chance for peace? A chance to work together? We don't know them yet. But it was too late for diplomacy for most of the council. The factions within the coalition had already taken sides, and the voices of reason were drowned out by calls for action. The question wasn't whether to fight. It was how soon. Meanwhile, Captain Eric stood on the bridge of the Thunderstrike, watching the galaxy unfold before him. His crew was ready, and he had been briefed on the political turmoil his message had caused. But Eric wasn't concerned with the politics of the galaxy. He had one purpose: to ensure that humanity's place in the stars was no longer up for debate. Peace was ideal, but survival came first. And if the galaxy wasn't ready to accept them, then humanity would force them to. The Thunderstrike moved silently into position. It was a ship designed for war, yet its weapons remained dormant for now. There was no need to act in haste. Eric had learned long ago that a warship's true power lay in its ability to instill fear before ever firing a shot. The galaxy needed to understand that humanity had changed. They weren't a fledgling species anymore. They were a force to be reckoned with. As the council deliberated, Captain Eric issued a final message across the stars. "We will give you time to decide," he said, his voice calm but cold. "But make no mistake, Time is a luxury you no longer possess. The message sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Every species, every fleet, every leader knew that the humans were no longer the small, fragile race they had once been. The galaxy had underestimated them, and now humanity was ready to make them all regret it. You said the galaxy was on edge. Every planet, every star system, every species that had once felt safe under the protection of the Galactic Coalition now found themselves uncertain, shaken to their core. The human warship, Thunderstrike, had made its move, and the galaxy was reeling from the consequences. The ultimatum was simple, yet terrifying. Accept us or fight us. The Council's deliberations continued, but the decision was becoming increasingly difficult. Some argued that the galaxy had to respond with overwhelming force, that humanity couldn't be allowed to establish itself as a power without first being neutralized. Others pushed for diplomacy, but their voices were growing quieter with each passing moment. Time was slipping away, and the message from Captain Eric was clear. He was no longer waiting. On the bridge of the Thunderstrike, Captain Eric stood silently, gazing at the galaxy beyond the viewscreen. His ship was alone in the vastness of space, surrounded by fleets of the Coalition, who had begun to mobilize in response to his message. The space around him was filled with the energy of tension as ships prepared for either peace or war. He knew that his presence had already altered the course of the galaxy. His arrival had shaken the delicate peace of the stars. But what was the next step? Would the galaxy bow before humanity, or would it force a war? The Thunderstrike was a marvel of human engineering, a warship unlike any the galaxy had seen before, armed with advanced weaponry, energy shields stronger than any other races, and the latest in stealth technology. It was a weapon of destruction. Yet, Eric's mission was not just to bring about a war, it was to show the galaxy that humanity had a place among them. They would either accept it or face the consequences. Meanwhile, on the Coalition's flagship, Commander Reloth was briefing his officers. Prepare for all possibilities, he instructed them. We don't know what this ship can do, but we know it won't hesitate. The message from Captain Eric was clear. They're prepared for war. We can't take chances. Reloth's crew was a mix of the galaxy's most elite fighters, but even they felt the pressure of the situation. This wasn't like any other battle they had faced. This wasn't just a fight for control of resources or territory. This was about something bigger, something that would change the entire balance of power in the galaxy. As the Coalition forces gathered in formation, a sense of unease settled over the commanders. No one was certain of the next move, but one thing was undeniable. Humanity was no longer a species to be ignored. The sheer audacity of their presence had captured the attention of every race, and now the galaxy would have to decide how to deal with it. Far from the Council's chambers, the leaders of the various species watched in silence as the events unfolded. The Varkesh, a proud warrior race, were among the first to speak out in favor of aggressive action. We cannot allow one ship to challenge us, their leader, Kragath, declared. We must strike first, or we risk showing weakness. On the opposite side, Xandar, the Krillian diplomat, called for restraint. We don't know their true intentions. We must try to communicate, to understand why they've come. But even Xandar's voice was growing softer, drowned out by the mounting calls for action. The galaxy's future seemed to be hanging by a thread, and it was unclear which way the Council would tip the scales. Back on the Thunderstrike, Eric was calm, his expression unreadable. He knew the stakes of what was unfolding. Humanity had been pushed into a corner, forced to fight for a place among the stars. But what no one could understand was the depth of humanity's resolve. Eric had been chosen for this mission because he was a warrior, a leader who could inspire his people to fight with everything they had. But there was more to humanity than just their ability to wage war. They had endured countless hardships, survived endless wars, and built civilizations from the ground up. They weren't here to destroy the galaxy. They were here to show the galaxy that they could stand alongside its greatest powers. Suddenly, a new transmission came through. The coalition had made their decision. Reloth's voice boomed through the Thunderstrike's communication system. "Human Warship, this is Commander Reloth of the Galactic Coalition. We are prepared to engage if necessary. Do not test us." For a moment, there was only silence. Then, Eric's voice crackled over the comms. "I don't want war. I want peace. But understand this, we will not be intimidated. If you attack us, we will fight back with everything we have." His words were measured, deliberate. The galaxy had to understand that humanity had reached the point where they could no longer back down. The message was clear. Peace was still on the table, but only on humanity's terms. If the galaxy wanted to fight, they would find themselves up against something they had never faced before. The Thunderstrike was ready, and humanity was prepared to show the galaxy just what they could do. As the Coalition's fleet prepared for battle, the tension was palpable. The war that no one had wanted now seemed inevitable. And yet, amid the fear and uncertainty, one truth remained: the galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity had arrived, and whether the galaxy liked it or not, they were here to stay. The battle lines were drawn. Across the stars, the Coalition's fleets were assembling, their ships ready to face the human warship that had dared to challenge the galaxy's order. Tension filled the air, thick with the weight of the unknown. The Thunderstrike had demonstrated its resolve, and now, the Coalition had to respond. It was no longer a question of diplomacy or negotiation. The galaxy had chosen its path, and Captain Eric had made his intentions clear. Humanity would either be accepted into the fold, or it would be forced to carve its own place through the might of war. Captain Eric stood at the bridge, his eyes scanning the countless ships surrounding him. The view outside was a vast expanse of ships that seemed to stretch on forever, a force of unimaginable size. But despite the overwhelming odds, Eric remained calm, resolute. He had faced far worse before, and he knew humanity's strength. The Thunderstrike wasn't just any ship. It was the symbol of everything humanity had fought for, a testament to their survival, their progress, and their unwavering will to protect what was theirs. "Status report," Eric called out, his voice steady, betraying no trace of doubt. Lieutenant Moore, a seasoned officer, quickly ran through the numbers. "We've detected incoming fleets, Captain. At least 30 ships, with more on the way. They're preparing for a full-scale attack." Eric nodded slowly. "Prepare the ship. We're not backing down." As the Thunderstrike powered up, its weapon systems hummed to life. The colossal warship's shields flickered into place, glowing with a bright blue energy that signaled it was ready for whatever the galaxy had to throw at it. The sound of weapons charging reverberated through the ship, a quiet but ominous reminder of the power they held. The Thunderstrike wasn't a ship built to retreat. It was a ship designed to fight, to survive, and to conquer. The first volley of shots came from the Zora fleet. Their ships, sleek and fast, cut through space with precision, launching energy blasts at the Thunderstrike. The blasts hit the ship's shields with a resounding force, but the Thunderstrike barely flinched. The human ship's shields absorbed the blasts with minimal strain, and in response, its weapon systems fired back with a deadly precision. Energy beams streaked across the battlefield, cutting through the void. The first Zora ship exploded in a burst of flames, its remains scattering into space. The rest of the Zora fleet hesitated, realizing that this wasn't going to be an easy fight. "Captain," Lieutenant Moore said, her voice strained. "They're regrouping. More ships are coming in. We've got incoming fire from multiple angles." Eric watched the tactical display. He knew that the first move would set the tone for the battle. If humanity showed weakness now, the galaxy would never take them seriously. But if they stood their ground, if they fought back with everything they had, the galaxy would be forced to acknowledge their power. "We hold the line," Eric ordered. "Open fire on the closest fleet. Target their command ships." The Thunderstrike unleashed a barrage of missiles that streaked through space, finding their marks with deadly accuracy. Explosions erupted in the vacuum of space as the first wave of coalition ships were torn apart. But there were more on the way, dozens more. Each ship that fell was quickly replaced by another. The battle was far from over. In the heart of the Coalition's flagship, Commander Raloff stood watching the chaos unfold. His fists clenched as he observed the destruction. The human warship was stronger than any of them had anticipated. It wasn't just a physical threat. It was a psychological one. The sheer audacity of one ship challenging the entire galaxy had rattled the Coalition to its core. "Commander, the Thunderstrike is more powerful than we thought," one of Raloff's officers reported. "Their weapons are tearing through our fleets. Our shields can't hold much longer." Raloff's jaw tightened. He had been prepared for this kind of resistance, but seeing it in action was something else entirely. The humans weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for something greater. They were fighting to claim their place in the galaxy. "They won't stop until they've shown the galaxy that they belong," Raloff muttered. "We have to end this quickly." But it was clear that the battle wasn't going to be over soon. The Thunderstrike was relentless, firing shot after shot, bringing down ships and creating chaos in the Coalition's ranks. The sheer scale of the battle was overwhelming, but Captain Eric had no intention of backing down. On the Thunderstrike, Eric turned to his crew, his voice firm. "We fight until the last ship falls, until the last shot is fired. We show them that humanity does not kneel. We show them that humanity has come for what is rightfully ours." With each passing moment, the battle escalated. The Thunderstrike had already taken down a dozen ships, and yet more were arriving. But the warship was built for this, built for endurance, built for overwhelming force. The message was simple. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and now it would learn the price of that mistake. The Coalition was faltering, unsure of how to proceed. Their initial attack was not enough to break the human warship, and each new wave of fighters was met with even more brutal resistance. The question now was whether the galaxy would continue to push, or whether they would recognize the undeniable truth. Humanity was not to be trifled with. In the midst of the chaos, Captain Eric's voice rang out, commanding, unwavering. "This battle has only just begun. We fight not for our survival, but for our future." The Thunderstrike powered forward, cutting through the battle, its weapons blazing brighter than ever. The war had begun, and the galaxy was about to learn just how powerful humanity could be when pushed to the edge. The battle raged on, a fierce storm of fire and destruction. The Thunderstrike had already torn through several waves of Coalition ships, its weapons showing no mercy. Captain Eric's face was stoic as he watched the chaos unfold before him. The human warship had proven itself a force to be reckoned with, but the fight was far from over. More Coalition fleets were arriving by the minute, and the odds were stacking up against them. Yet the Thunderstrike stood strong, its hull scared but not broken, its shields still holding firm. On the bridge, Lieutenant Moore monitored the tactical display, her hands flying over the controls as she coordinated with the crew. "Captain," she reported, "we've destroyed half of their fleet, but reinforcements are pouring in. They've sent their elite fighters and flagship cruisers." Eric didn't flinch. "We knew they would. Prepare for the next wave. We fight, no matter the cost." The crew moved with precision, each person working in perfect harmony, fully aware that their lives, and the fate of humanity, were at stake. The Thunderstrike was their last stand, their greatest weapon in the fight to prove humanity's place in the galaxy. Eric's mind was clear, focused solely on the task at hand. He knew the risks, and he knew the consequences of failure, but he also knew the potential. The galaxy had seen humanity as weak, insignificant, a race not worth noticing. But they were wrong. Eric was determined to make them understand just how wrong they were. Outside, the battle intensified. The Coalition's ships were closing in, their weapons locked onto the Thunderstrike with lethal intent. But the human warship was fast, maneuvering with an agility that its enemies couldn't anticipate. The Thunderstrike twisted and turned, evading incoming fire while launching its own barrage of missiles and energy blasts. Each shot it fired found its mark, sending enemy ships into fiery explosions, their wreckage scattered across the void. The Zora fleet, having suffered devastating losses, was the first to retreat, but not without firing one final desperate salvo. The missiles streaked toward the Thunderstrike, but the ship's shields held strong, absorbing the impact without faltering. It was clear now. Humanity's warship wasn't just surviving. It was winning. Ralof stood on the command deck of the Coalition's flagship, his fists clenched in frustration. The Thunderstrike had outlasted their initial assault, and it was clear that their fleets were beginning to break apart under its relentless firepower. His commanders were growing nervous. The situation was deteriorating fast. Every ship that fell to the human warship weakened the Coalition's resolve, and Ralof could sense the shift in the air. The galaxy's greatest military power, once so confident in its superiority, was now questioning its ability to defeat this one ship. "Commander, we've lost contact with several of our battalions," one of Ralof's officers reported. "The Thunderstrike is destroying our ships faster than we can replace them. We need to consider withdrawing before we lose everything." Ralof's eyes burned with a fierce intensity. "Withdraw, and let humanity win this war. No, we fight to the end. Send in our last reserve fleet. We'll crush them once and for all." But even as he spoke the words, Ralof knew the truth. The Thunderstrike was something they had never anticipated. It wasn't just a ship. It was a statement, a symbol of humanity's will to survive, to rise against the odds, and make their presence known. No matter how many ships the Coalition threw at it, the Thunderstrike was relentless. It was proving that humanity's greatest strength wasn't just in their technology, but in their spirit, their refusal to back down. Back on the Thunderstrike, Captain Eric could feel the shift in the battle. The Coalition was faltering, their attacks growing less coordinated, their response slower. The human warship had become the hammer that was driving the galaxy's might to its knees. Eric's voice cut through the tension on the bridge. "We've pushed them to the edge. They're losing their nerve. We need to finish this." The crew rallied to their captain's command. The Thunderstrike locked onto the Coalition's reserve fleet, the final wave of ships that were meant to end this conflict. The human warship had already proven its strength, but now it was time to show the galaxy just how decisive humanity could be. The enemy fleets had underestimated the human resolve, and now they were paying the price. The Thunderstrike fired its main cannon, a devastating blast of energy that tore through the first of the reserve ships. It exploded in a bright flash, its hull disintegrating into space. The remaining ships in the fleet scattered, attempting to regroup and flee, but it was too late. The Thunderstrike was already on them, its weapons slicing through their ranks with brutal efficiency. The final ships of the Coalition fleet fell, one by one, unable to escape the human warship's wrath. In the aftermath, there was silence. The battlefield was littered with the wreckage of Coalition ships, and the once proud fleets were no more. The Thunderstrike remained intact, its crew battered but victorious. Captain Eric stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the stars. Humanity had won. But this victory came at a cost. The galaxy had learned one undeniable truth. Humanity was not to be underestimated. They had waged war, but they had done more than just survive. They had proven that they belonged among the stars. As the Thunderstrike drifted among the remains of the Coalition fleet, Eric's voice echoed through the ship. "We've shown them what happens when you push humanity too far. But this isn't just a victory for us. It's a message to the galaxy." The stars were silent, but the message was clear. Humanity had come, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The aftermath of the battle was a silent, haunting stillness. The wreckage of the Coalition's fleet floated through space, the remains of ships and debris scattered across the vast expanse. It was a graveyard of what had once been the greatest military force in the galaxy. And standing in the midst of it all, the Thunderstrike was the lone survivor. Its hull, though battered and scarred, was still intact, a testament to humanity's might and resilience. Captain Eric stood at the bridge, his eyes scanning the debris fields. The battle was over, But the consequences of their victory were only beginning to sink in. The Thunderstrike had proven its strength, but the galaxy had also seen the fury of humanity. No longer would they be dismissed as a fledgling species. No longer would they be underestimated. They had come for a place among the stars, and now the galaxy knew what it meant to challenge them. "Status report," Eric ordered, his voice calm, yet filled with an unspoken weight. Lieutenant Moore, still working tirelessly, responded with a grim expression. "We've lost some of our crew, Captain. Several of our systems are damaged, but we're holding. The enemy's fleets are wiped out. However, there's a communications spike coming from the outer rim. It's a distress signal." Eric's mind raced. The battle had ended with the destruction of the Coalition ships, but now a new challenge was emerging. The distress signal could mean reinforcements, or it could be a plea for mercy from those who had survived. Either way, it was a reminder that the war was far from over. "Patch it through," Eric ordered. He could feel the weight of the moment bearing down on him. This was the point where everything could either spiral into chaos or find a resolution. Humanity had won the battle, but the galaxy was far from forgiving. The screen flickered, and a voice crackled through. "This is High Commander Zorak of the Zora Coalition. We surrender. We've lost too many. We can no longer fight. Please, end the war." The words hit the crew like a shockwave. For all their strength, all their firepower, the galaxy's might was begging for mercy. Zorak's voice trembled, a stark contrast to the arrogance that had filled the Coalition's messages just days before. The realization was staggering. Humanity's victory had shattered the pride of the Coalition, leaving them broken and pleading. Captain Eric felt a mixture of pride and coldness wash over him. The Zora had demanded this war, had underestimated humanity's resolve. But now, they were on their knees, humbled by the strength of the Thunderstrike. Eric knew that mercy could be a powerful tool, but only if used carefully. This was humanity's chance to show that they were not just warriors. They were also diplomats. But he couldn't ignore the reality of the situation. The galaxy had demanded war, and humanity had delivered it with unmatched fury. "Commander Zorak," Eric spoke, his voice firm, "you have one chance. Surrender completely, and you and your people will be spared. But if you raise arms again, there will be no mercy." Zorak's voice cracked as he responded, "We understand. We surrender. We will comply with humanity's terms. Please, just end the bloodshed." A brief silence followed before Eric gave the order. "Relay the terms. Humanity does not seek to destroy, but we will not hesitate to defend ourselves again. If you choose peace, it will be honored. If you choose war, we will finish it. No more chances." The communications ended, and the crew of the Thunderstrike was left to contemplate what had just transpired. Humanity had won. The war was over for now, but the galaxy had been irrevocably changed. Eric knew that the Thunderstrike's victory would resonate across the stars. Every species in the galaxy would remember what had happened here. They would remember that when humanity had been pushed to the brink, they had unleashed a fury the galaxy could never forget. "Prepare for departure," Eric said, his voice steady. "We're heading back to Earth, but we'll be watching. The galaxy will never forget what happened here." As the Thunderstrike turned away from the debris, leaving the Coalition's broken fleet behind, Eric allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. Humanity had crossed a line in the stars that would never be erased. The galaxy now knew the true power of a single human warship, and it was a power that would echo for generations to come. But this was just the beginning. Humanity had shown its strength, and the stars were watching. Would they come to respect humanity, or would there be those who still sought to test them, to challenge the resolve of a species that had just begun to show its true potential? For Captain Eric and the crew of the Thunderstrike, the journey had only just begun. They had proven that humanity would not be ignored, but the future was uncertain. One thing, however, was clear. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, and they were ready for whatever came next. As the thunderstrike made its way toward Earth, the vastness of space stretched out before them, silent and foreboding. The warship's crew, exhausted but resolute, moved through the ship with a sense of purpose. They had won a battle the galaxy would never forget, but the war had left its scars. Humanity had proven its strength, but there was more at stake than just victory. The galaxy was watching, waiting for what came next. Captain Eric stood at the bridge, his eyes fixed on the stars. The battle had been brutal, but it had been necessary. He had known the risks when he'd led humanity into this war. The Coalition had underestimated them, but now they had seen the cost of that mistake. Still, the question lingered. What would happen after this? What would the galaxy do with a species that had the power to destroy entire fleets in the blink of an eye? Captain. Lieutenant Moore's voice broke through his thoughts. We've received another transmission. It's from the Galactic Council. The mention of the Galactic Council sent a shiver down Eric's spine. The Council had been the architects of humanity's trials, the ones who had forced Earth into the fringes of the galaxy, treating it as a backwater planet. They were the ones who had watched as humanity struggled, refusing to see them as equals. Now, after the destruction of the Coalition's fleet, humanity's place in the galaxy had changed forever. What did the Council want? Patch it through, Eric ordered, steeling himself for whatever was to come. The screen flickered to life, and a figure appeared on the display. A tall, imposing alien with silver skin and sharp, angular features. The ambassador's expression was unreadable, but there was no hiding the tension in his eyes. Captain Eric. The ambassador's voice was cool, measured, but with a hint of something else beneath. The Galactic Council wishes to speak with you. This conflict has escalated beyond what we anticipated. The actions of your ship have created a ripple throughout the galaxy. Eric's mind raced. A ripple? He echoed, his voice tinged with suspicion. You mean fear? Humanity's message has been heard. We will no longer be dismissed. The ambassador nodded slowly, his eyes narrowing. Yes, Captain. The entire galaxy is now aware of your strength, but we must discuss what comes next. Humanity has proven itself capable of great power, but power alone is not enough to ensure peace. Then what do you want? Eric asked, his patience wearing thin. He had no interest in the Galactic Council's rhetoric. Humanity had already earned its place, and they had no intention of bowing down again. The ambassador's expression softened, if only slightly. We come not to challenge you, but to offer you a choice. The galaxy is vast, and not all will see your rise with favor. Some will test your resolve, just as the Coalition did. If you wish to avoid further conflict, there must be terms. A treaty, a path toward peace, or if you choose, we can prepare for the next war. Eric's fists clenched at his sides. You think we'll bow to your terms after everything that's happened? He asked, his voice low and dangerous. Humanity didn't start this war. We fought because we had no choice. But now we've shown the galaxy what happens when you push us too far. The ambassador's gaze held steady, though his posture remained stiff. The galaxy is not so easily swayed, Captain. Power will only get you so far. You must be prepared to lead, not just with strength, but with wisdom. The Council wishes to negotiate. Peace is still possible. But if you refuse, if you challenge us, know that there will be consequences. A tense silence hung in the air as Eric weighed his options. The reality was undeniable. The Coalition had been defeated, but many others still viewed humanity as a threat, perhaps even a danger to the balance of the galaxy. The offer of peace from the Galactic Council was not one to take lightly, but at the same time, he couldn't ignore the truth that humanity had fought for its survival, and now it would fight to protect its future. We'll consider your terms, Eric said finally, his voice cold and decisive. But make no mistake, humanity will not kneel. We will stand tall, with or without your approval. The ambassador's eyes flickered with what seemed like a mix of respect and wariness. Very well, Captain. The Council will await your decision. But know this, whether you accept peace or war, the galaxy will never forget what you've done here today." The transmission ended, and the bridge fell silent once more. The crew looked at each other, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. Peace, war. The galaxy had just witnessed the birth of a new power, and now humanity stood at the crossroads, facing a choice that would shape the future of not only Earth but the entire galaxy. Eric turned toward the stars. "Prepare for Earth's arrival. The future of humanity is in our hands now." As the thunderstrike continued its journey toward Earth, the crew knew that their victory had changed everything. The galaxy was no longer a place where humanity was ignored. They had made their mark, and whether the Council chose peace or conflict, humanity was ready to face whatever came next. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity's place among the stars was no longer up for debate. The thunderstrike sailed forward, its crew standing united, as the stars ahead held the promise of both challenge and opportunity. And no matter what the galaxy decided, humanity would face it with the strength they had proven on that battlefield.